Welcome to episode 2 of Gamer Under Development's Let's Play Endless Legend. Playing as the Necrophages, and in last week's episode we established our first 2 cities, pacified all our minor factions, and lost a forager army. In this episode we're going to focus our efforts on advancing our main quest, creating our demon army, and catching up on empire plans. So to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and go up here and check out our empire plan. We have 6 turns until the next empire plan. We've also got this 15 die that we've been sitting on for a little while. In one turn, I'm going to pop this die because it'll grant us plus 50% influence and plus 5 happiness for 5 turns, building up to our empire plan. This will help us to get caught up a little bit on the empire plan, so we're not just stuck with 2 level 1 plans. Also, we're going to be working on our main quest, which requires us right now to have 10 titanium and 20 emeralds. We're really close to that. The only thing we need is some emerald harvesters or gatherers to collect emeralds. We have a couple in construction right here, they're just not done. In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and use some gold to speed that up. And then I'm going to go ahead and end our turn so that these 2 armies merge. We've also got 2 new neighbors over here. Now normally I like to expand into 3 regions before I start declaring war on people, but with them so close I have a feeling that they're going to expand into this region here and this region here, and then we'll just take their cities instead of worrying about building new settlers. Alright, so we'll merge these armies. We now have 1 full-size army of Necrodrones. We could begin a war with these, but that would be sort of haphazard. It seems smarter to build our forces up and have a really strong army to go after the neighbors. So I'm going to go ahead and activate our die. And shove all of our citizens in both of our cities completely into influence. I may actually make an exception on this city because they're going to starve out in 2 turns. So I'll probably add a couple guys to food for them. Or maybe I'll add them to production instead so that we can get this seed storage out rather quickly. It sucks though because we'll be wasting the bonus from the die. Generating 36 over 5 turns. And our goal is to reach right about there. So we need 160 points. 5 turns, 36 points each. We're definitely gonna make it. The question is, can we sacrifice a couple of these guys to production and still make it? Yes, we can. That's still gonna make our seed storage take 3 turns, and we may lose a population in the process. I suppose we could do that. We won't lose a population before our seed storage finishes, and we'll still be generating enough influence to reach our goal of 160. I'd like more, I'd like enough influence to fill out everything, but I don't see that happening. That 160 should be pretty reachable though. Be nice if we could get up to 200 for that, but I don't think we have enough influence generation right now. In the meantime, I'm going to send these guys down to explore these ruins. I have failed the quest Lust for Loot, because it wasn't worth going after in the first place. Let us hope that we become honorable acquaintances. I'm not going to really worry about diplomacy because we don't need to. at all. I will take a detour over here, though, and loot all the ruins in this region. This city is pretty much what I like to think of as complete. It's got all of the improvements that are available to it built. Now all we can do is begin expanding the boroughs, which is good for us because the Necrophage expand boroughs at twice the speed of everyone else, so soon we'll start to engulf most of this territory. Well, that's interesting. The Justice here is one of the only, if not the only, minor faction that actually has resistance to disease. It's one of the only. And it looks like our Broken Lord's neighbors are planning on settling this region, so soon they'll have access to those units. But in the meantime, we'll just continue to loot their ruins before they take the place. Soon we'll have our demon armies and our proliferators ready to be built, and then a city like this that's just on boroughs will be excellent for that because it'll just be able to pump out the army without falling behind in city improvements. A weapon was lodged within a great mound of glass steel by a mad blacksmith. It is said that the weapon has interesting powers and it might be worth obtaining. They want me to colonize a region for this. Let's see what region they want. So if we colonize this region, we'll gain access to a very powerful weapon. But to be honest, I'd rather let our Broken Lord neighbors colonize this and take the city from them. So I'm just going to continue exploring ruins. In one turn, we'll have our seed storage. In two, we'll have our new social plans. After that, we'll probably leave people in influence temporarily just to get enough to assimilate the Silix if we don't already have it. Or not the Silix, the Kazanji. We definitely want to assimilate the Kazanji. That chain lightning attack will make our proliferators very powerful. And the fact that they have slow movement isn't a huge issue because they also have fly. Oh, we're out of science, or we're out of research. So we've finished everything we want in Era 1, and now we're going to move on to Era 2. There are a lot of technologies in here that are really useful for the Necrophage, but the majority of them are located in the military section. The first thing we're going to grab is the Proliferator. After that, we're going to grab cannon fodder to reduce the cost of our upkeep on our armies. And then we're going to grab meritocratic promotion to increase our garrison size by 2. We may also want to grab conscription center, but I feel like that's a slightly less important tech because the only difference that makes is the starting level of your units, and we'll be leveling our units up relatively fast. I will, however, add native district to that because we're going to want to assimilate another minor faction relatively soon. I'm really not a huge fan of demanding gods. As far as unique faction techs go, this one doesn't really appeal to me. The idea of sacrificing workers in order to gain a temporary happiness boost just doesn't seem like a worthwhile sacrifice. We'll grab Imperial Highways, though, as well, because that's going to give us the ability to build roads between our cities, as well as building watchtowers that allow us to monitor everything. We'll grab public granaries and alchemy workshops. These are both nice increases to food and science, respectively. There was one more tech I want to make sure we get, and that's Imperial coinage. Imperial coinage becomes really useful because we're going to start doing what I like to think of as buff phases, where we basically pop certain luxury resources every 5 turns to maximize the output of our cities. No more ruins to explore here. So I'm going to send him down here. Alright, now we're ready for our new empire plan. You'll notice that I focused on empire and expansion. That's because of this plus 25 happiness on cities, which increases your food and production by 10% when all of your cities are fervent. So that matters for us. I also grabbed 20% science to help us stay caught up on science, and 33% building cost reduction so that we can build stuff faster. We've also got 20% unit cost reduction and an additional 3 gold per city. This plus 30% attack could have been really useful for us. Hopefully we'll be able to pick that up on our next plan. And the 25% building buyout reduction isn't super relevant to us because we're not generating enough dust to mass buy cities. At least not yet. Now that we've picked that new empire plan, we could trigger emeralds for some extra happiness for the next 5 turns, but I really don't feel like that would be super useful for us since we're trying to save those up for our faction quest. Yay! Enemies to kill. That's not really a fight. Another interesting point that I want to make about the necrophages while we're here is notice that I've left some of these villages in my area up. The good reason to leave them up is that as long as they're up, they'll continue generating those roaming armies that you can farm with the necrophage. If you destroy all these villages, you won't see any of those roaming armies anymore, which means you'll have more trouble leveling your units and more trouble acquiring recycling counters. Oh, and we have enough influence left over to assimilate the Kazanji like we wanted to. And we've also finished our techs for glass steel equipment, so I'm going to load up the Daemon unit. Our main focus here is to increase 2 stats, initiative and damage, because, well, and a little bit of attack. Because if we can get them in there first and they hit first, usually they will drop things in one hit and you won't have to worry too much about defense. So I'm focusing mainly on glass steel gear that provides initiative bonuses and a little bit of attack, which we'll get from this helmet. And then we'll also put on the glass steel ring for improved initiative and the titanium ring for improved damage. Or rather just the improved initiative because we don't have a second slot yet. We should actually move our main unit back into our territory so that we can upgrade the hero with glass steel gear as well, but we're not quite there yet. What we can do is we can begin building our demon army here. So we've got 5 demons building right here, which is exactly what we want. In 3 turns, we'll begin to be able to produce proliferators. And in roughly 2 turns, we'll have our general back in our territory so we can upgrade his glass steel gear. And hopefully by then, they will claim this region or this region so that we can come in and steal it from them. Interesting. I'm not sure where we discovered the orcs at. They're probably back here somewhere. Another minor faction that I could care less about. We just acquired 15 blood crystals. The attack bonus and the happiness bonus will be excellent when we do go to war, but we're not doing that right now, so we're just going to sit on them for a while. I was tempted to go after that Drider army right there, but it's not worth it. It's better for us to get our general back in here and gear him up for the coming war. The other thing we're going to do is, now that we're no longer farming influence, we're going to swap everybody back out of influence to something else. And in Avenac, the city has grown enough that we've reached the point where I like to start seeding one person into every resource at least, because of the amount that gets added just by having one additional worker. And we'll keep the majority in production as we have been. And our hero has leveled, so we're going to go ahead and grab Roadside Picnic. That'll give us some extra health regen inside of our own regions and in allied regions. Iron Constitution here is the one we really want, because this will give us health regen in enemy regions. Apply the changes. In one more turn, he'll be within our region so that we can upgrade him to glass steel gear. And we will be producing our first demon in 3 turns. Oh no, we failed to complete this quest. So we got what we wanted. They did just settle this region, which will be excellent because soon we'll have armies ready to take that region over. I'm going to go in here to my hero and upgrade all his gear to glass steel now. I kind of want to take advantage of break wall, so we're going to keep him one-handed and give him break wall and this glass steel sword. The rest of his gear will resemble what we put on the demons, with exception to these. These are one of the greatest benefits to having the glass steel alloys tech. Being able to put these on your hero to provide an overall increase to the damage and initiative of your entire army is excellent. I'm just going to park this army right here on their border, chomping at the bit. Soon we shall take over the lands of the Broken Lords. And then whoever these orange people are, I think these are Ardent Mages. Yeah, that's what that building looks like. They may provide us with some competition. The Broken Lords aren't a pushover by any means, but their biggest problem is that if they do try to fight us, they'll probably use a lot of dust to repair their units because they can do that. But by doing that, they will likely cripple their dust supply, allowing us to conquer them anyway. Excellent. Okay, so we just built another 2 emerald extractors in Tal'Darim. Our first demon in Aranak. And we're hitting winter turns, which doesn't help us a ton. Let's see, we're going to start to lose people because of winter within 8 turns. Fortunately, this winter is only going to last 1 to 4 turns. So for the most part, we're really just going to ignore it. So we've finished cannon fodder, and we're on to meritocratic promotion. Once we complete meritocratic promotion, we will be able to build those large armies that we wanted. But for the time being, we have unlocked the Proliferator, and we're going to go through and set that unit up. Proliferator is going to be the same setup as everybody else. We're going to focus on initiative and damage. With the Proliferator, it's even nicer to focus on those two things, simply because if they manage to kill a unit, they will produce another Forager. And then we'll go ahead and add a Proliferator to the queue here. So it's going to be 18 turns before our army is ready to go, which is somewhat disappointing. Disappointing enough that I think I'm going to move everybody into production and see how many turns that cuts us down by. Now we're only looking at 12 turns, so I'm going to leave them there because building this army is the single most important venture for us, I think. And it looks like next turn we should have enough emeralds to come down and explore the ruins for the quest. Once we do that, I'm pretty sure we're going to get another hero named Ka-Riss, which will be great because we can put him at the front of a Necrodrone army and bring him as a support backup. For the time being, I'm going to actually move him down here, though, closer to where the army is going to come out of. Also closer to the ruin that we'll be exploring, so I'll probably just head him down there. Looks like we have another Empire plan coming in 3 turns, and I have not been very attentive. However, we do already have half, well, almost half of the value that we need to maintain what we currently have. And this city is almost complete. We're going to switch them purely to influence. Unfortunately, we're going to slow down army production here, switching over to pure influence. That'll generate 29 a turn. We have 3 turns. So we'll get about 90, which should put us right in range to get the same stuff we have now, if not a little bit under, which would be disappointing. Now this is bumped up to 33, so we'll definitely make it, especially if winter ends in the next turn like it should. Unfortunately, our army production has slowed to a halt. Okay, so there's a Guaran unit that's a roaming army over here of 3. This is actually a danger to us. But I want to complete the faction quest. I guess I'll go take these guys out first. This will give us a recycling counter as well, which we can use to speed things up. I'm really just turning on this fight so that I can watch the army work. Oh, and we can see our demon units in play too, because they were in the city. You can see the Necrodrone sweep strike back was really beneficial there. No benefit to chain lightning at the moment. And another Goron bites the dust. Wow, that Necrodrone unit really hit hard. So we cleared them out pretty easily, as expected. I should have just autoed that fight. But now that they're gone, we can go investigate the ruins, which should give us another hero named Karis. And in one turn, we'll have our new Empire plan. Just made it to 160. That's okay though, because by the time we hit our next Empire plan, we should be well along the path to war. We just completed meritocratic promotion. The only thing in our way now is simply producing the units. As you can see, we're starting to build a fairly reasonable amount of each resource. It's still nothing amazing, but as we start to produce a little more dust, we'll start to look towards grabbing heroes. It occurred to me that I should mention that I believe it's the Roving Clans heroes. Yeah, it is. Feet on the Street is an excellent hero ability when you're playing as the Necrophages because it speeds up the rate of actually being able to own and control your cities once they're captured exponentially. As well as removing expansion disapproval, which is also nice since we'll be capturing a rather large amount of regions due to combat. So we're going to search that ruin and hopefully progress the main quest. Search the same ruin after we have 150 dust, which thankfully we already had. And we receive Karis. Karis is a very interesting hero. It can be difficult to decide which way to go with him, whether you want him to be combat or to be a governor. He has the slavery ability, which is excellent for governors. I'm going to make him a military unit though, because the main quest will only very shortly require him to be a governor, and there are much better governors out there, I think. Our next quest is to level Karis a couple levels so that he can grab 2 abilities that are both combat related, which is another reason why I like to make him a combat general. Since we're going to use him for combat, I'm going to go ahead and gear him out the same way that we've geared out our other hero. Karis, it looks like, has an additional accessory slot though, which we will use to increase his initiative, which is still rather low. And then I'll go ahead and bring out our demon army, or the starts of it, and assign Karis to it. I should really assign the demon army to our other general, but considering Karis needs experience to level, I'm just going to put it on him so that we can start clearing out some of these minor factions and gaining levels that way. Honestly, with just these 3 demons, we can probably level pretty much anyone we come across right now. I'm going to have this city begin producing a proliferator for Feeds on Bones army. I'll also have it drop out another Necrodrone just because I don't feel like mixing a demon into that group. Our next Empire plan is in 7 turns, so in 2 turns we're going to begin focusing in on that. We also have a recycled stockpile to use. So population-wise, both of these cities are virtually identical because of the different number of minor faction villages in Tal'Darim versus Aranok. Aranok is already barely content, so I'm not sure that it'd be a good idea to increase their population and possibly lower that even more. But they are producing our demon army. I'm going to go ahead and give it to Aranok. I could have also saved that for the winter, but I rarely lose workers during the winter, so I'm not worried about that too much. Yay, we produced another demon. I'm actually going to move into their territory for a second just to kind of play with them and see what happens. If they get really defensive, they'll ask me to leave the territory and not have units there, which is fine. If they don't get really defensive, that just tells me that it'll be really easy to move a bunch of units around this city and take it. I'm going to move them down here to explore this ruin because that's another activity that will provide Karis with some experience. And there's several ruins down here that he can explore. So we've unlocked the native district. If we want to, we can come in here and assimilate the Silix right away. I think I'm going to wait though because we only have one Silix village, so that's a really small bonus for the assimilation effect. Hopefully as we're conquering our way back here, we find another region where they had Silix, and that'll give us a few more cities and make that bonus effect a lot more powerful. Oh yeah, we can handle the Jodas. And we've got 5 turns till our next Empire plan, so now is the time to begin worrying about our influence. Currently have 50, which means we need 110 influence over 5 turns. That should do it, while allowing us to continue growing other things, like science and dust. Still no reaction from our neighbors about our army being right there. Don't mind us, we're just hanging out. We're totally not preparing to build siege weapons and bring your walls down. And that's not an army, that's an entourage. Oh. Yes, they're there for vacation. They're taking a vacation in the place that was formerly known as Zoparusk. And due to the comments on the previous video, will soon be known as MeepVille. The mighty empire of MeepVille will destroy every other faction on the map. I'm going to pull these guys back for a minute though, because I don't actually want them to close their borders to us. I just wanted to see if they would react. Some of the more peaceful factions will just sit there and ignore you until you siege their city, which is kind of silly. It's going to take quite a few turns for our army to return. However, we will run into Guaran along the way, which is nice. But I'm going to move over here because I want to engage them away from the city to try to prevent reinforcements. And in 4 turns, this Necrodrone will finish, and we will begin likely sieging Zoparusk. Because in 1 turn, we'll have our Proliferator down here, which will give us 2 very powerful armies. And those Guaran decided to move closer to our territory, which is beneficial to us. You can see the huge movement range on demons because they're flying units. So now when we reach them, we'll be 5 strong, and the Proliferator will rejoin us shortly after that. Yes, it's going to take him 2 turns to get there, but it would only take him roughly 1 to get here. So we're going to aim to come in here and kill him, and then move our unit here to merge the armies. And in 1 turn, roughly, we should have an Empire plan come in. Right on top, along with Imperial Highways. And the Minotaurs have decided not to wait. They want to go. And you can see our Proliferator already created 1 Forager via Parasitism. The downside is we're going to actually have to pull that Forager out of our garrison in order to merge the Proliferator in, but it won't matter because once he's in there, every Forager we produce will go past our command point cap and it won't make a difference. The army will just continue to grow until we overrun everything. Such is the fate of the Necrophage. Can't boot the Forager out this turn. Karis has gained experience, which is excellent. So we're trying to get him to either level 2 of this or level 1 of this. I'm going to get him to level 1 of this because I'm going to work him up the same roundward path that I used on Feeds on Bones. Several units leveled. And we're going to keep the exact same Empire plan that we've had for several turns now. Well, several Empire plans now. It's asking us if we want to blow our luxury resources, which we do not. We're going to wait to blow those until we attack that city. Feeds on Bones has reached another level. And he's actually really close to making his way over to Ice in the Veins. But in the meantime, he now has the ability to regen the health of his units inside of enemy territory, which is excellent for us. The army's too big. We have to split out a Forager, which it won't let us. Okay. I'm going to have Taldrine working on right-of-way, which is the roads between cities. That'll actually help both cities out because they'll actually establish trade routes amongst themselves, which will cause both cities to prosper quite a bit. The catch is we then need to build it down here as well. And the watchtowers that I'm placing are just excellent means of watching neighboring regions as well as determining if anybody is coming at you. Really helpful for finding those wandering armies that can sometimes sneak in through the back while you're fighting somebody else. So we split out that Forager to make room for the Proliferator, and now we have 1 very, very powerful demon army. As well as a Necrodrone army that's fairly powerful. I feel like it's beneficial to siege cities during winter because they're already producing less stuff. So shutting down outside trade routes and things like that seems like a really useful way to starve a city out. And it feels like that may be one of the better benefits of winter. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the movement decrease. But I was also thinking the other day that it might be interesting to introduce a minor faction that only appears during the winter and will actively attack any regions and cities that are populated. That would make the winter feel more apocalyptic. I feel like they've tried to model the winter in this after Game of Thrones, but in Game of Thrones, it's not actually the winter that's terrifying, it's the White Walkers that come with it. I feel like we need White Walkers in this. We need somebody, although not White Walkers, because we already have the Wild Walkers, and that would be rather confusing. But simply having that enemy that comes during winters would actually make winters more of an ordeal instead of an inconvenience. It would also make things like war interesting because you really wouldn't want to declare war going into winter, and if you were already at war going into winter, you would probably want to seek peace so that you could defend your cities. I'm a fan of any sort of mechanic like that that forces people to play outside of what would be their normal comfort zone. I'm going to go ahead and put public granaries in production in all of my cities, and I'm actually going to move it up to the top of the queue because prioritizing food improvements is very important with the necrophages. Once again, trying to work against our malice. Oh, and I blew it. We almost have enough for our next empire plan already because I forgot to switch my guys back from influence. Don't be like me and make that mistake. However, that being said, we almost have enough for our next empire plan and we've got 5 turns, so now we can switch everybody over to other things and safely produce enough influence to reach our empire plan. Yeah, we'll easily make our empire plan now in 5 turns, and now we're able to focus our cities back on producing things. So even if you fall out of the 5-turn cycle, it's not the end of the world, it just means that you have to sort of figure out where you're at and align yourself to it again. We're gonna begin sieging this city, which forces us to declare war. Yay, the boring times are over, the murder begins. Oh, and our neighboring Ardent Mages like us because apparently they do not like the Broken Lords. So when you siege a city, you can see this little negative number right here. That's how much city defense the city loses each turn. And I believe some of that gets deducted from the health of the units inside the city. So that number is based on how many units you have out here or their power or something like that. I'm not sure of the actual equation, but the bottom line is if I moved one of these armies out, that would go down significantly, probably in half since they're both 6-unit armies. But it might actually change more depending on which army I move. Either way, I'm not moving armies away from there. I'm just going to leave them nice and happy waiting to take Zoparusk. We are almost out of time for this episode, but before I end it, we are going to conquer Zoparusk and rename it to MeepVille to appease the commenters on the last video. Which shouldn't be hard. It looks like Zoparusk is going to fall within the next turn. Yeah, they're coming at us all out to try to defend this city, but I don't like their odds. Okay, so we lost the Necrodrone, but in exchange we gained 2 Foragers, so oh no. And now the city is ripe for taking. As you can see, this garrison now has 7 units in it, which is beyond our command point limit. Such is the power of the Proliferator. And now, we have captured the seat of our future empire expansion, MeepVille. Doesn't look like they got through a whole lot of production on these cities. Sometimes you get really lucky and the city that you capture has all the improvements already built and it's pretty much good to go. This is not one of those cases. They missed several food improvements. Well, of course they missed food improvements. They're the Broken Lords. Okay, so we did get lucky. They did build all of the basic improvements that we want that were relevant to their faction. They did not, however, build the ones that are relevant to our faction, so we'll be building those, as well as a glass steel extractor, some watchtowers, and a road to our other regions. We also have the ability to assimilate the haunts now if we want to. I don't see much point in that at this time because we only have one haunt city and a 5% science increase is not worth an assimilation slot. Karis has gained a level. We'll go ahead and put that into Fast Healer, which should move our faction quest ahead. With the hero Karis assigned to an army, search the unspoiled ruins located in the region called MeepVille. That'll give us access to the fungal laboratory, though, which provides a large amount of food, but Karis has to be the governor in order for us to build it. That's it for episode 2 of Gamer Under Development's Let's Play Endless Legend. Please like and subscribe. We'll have another episode up for you next week. Thanks for watching.